Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So if you've been following my channel recently, we're on that home stretch of the IS300 automatic to manual conversion. So on today's video, I'm gonna go ahead and get the flywheel in, get the clutch in, do some additional maintenance parts on the actual transmission. Once I get all that in, I'm gonna try to lift it in and see if I can mount the tranny to the actual engine block and see if I can get this installed. So stay tuned. So here we have the two transmissions side by side. As you can see, automatic transmission is bigger and heavier. Ask me how I know. I had to take this thing off that cart and put it on the ground, and that thing was heavy as hell. This thing is about 10 or 15 pounds lighter, and it makes a huge difference. So as you can see on the tail section here, the manual is actually shorter, hence the longer drive shaft versus the automatic. That's why the drive shafts are different, at least the middle part of the drive shaft. The part from the center bearing back is the exact same on automatic or manual. But yeah, we got both of them side by side. This automatic transmission, I'm probably just gonna give it away. It's got 200,000 miles on it, and it's gonna be useless to me now. So I got over here all the parts I'm gonna be changing out today. I went ahead and I picked up a new little ball thing for the arm and lever for the throwout bearing. So I'm gonna go ahead and replace the one that's on there that's kind of worn down. This thing was a few bucks, and I went ahead and just ordered a new one. I also bought a little bushing right here. This is the lower bushing on the actual shifter. I'm gonna replace that thing. This thing is actually a part off a W58. The one for the IS300 is listed as a different part number, and it's actually like 3 times more expensive. It's like 30 bucks, where this one is like less than $10. I think it's the exact same bushing, but I don't know. So we'll go ahead and check that out when we try to pop this on and see if it fits well. Over here, we got the pilot bearing for the flywheel or the crank. I've got the 8 bolts for the flywheel that I'm going to be using. If you guys haven't seen my previous parts video, I kind of went over all these parts that I'm going to be using. I'm actually using a W58 Supra flywheel, which is a single mass, so I'm going to use different bolts. I didn't want to use the dual mass just because the clutch I have is a sprung clutch, so you need a single mass standard flywheel to run that. And then over here, I've got the throwout bearing that we're going to be sticking in there and replacing. FYI, if you're going to order an OEM throwout bearing, it actually comes with that clip already. I didn't know that, so I ordered this bearing, and then I ordered that clip separate also. It was only like $2 or $3. I could have saved that knowing this thing already included it. Go ahead and take this thing off. It's a 19 millimeter. Spins off pretty easily. Once we put it back in, it torques back to 29 foot-pounds. Less worn out, but overall you probably didn't have to replace it, but since I saw there was a little bit of wear up here, I went ahead and just replaced it. Go ahead and get your torque wrench. It's all set already. So we'll go ahead and put the throwout bearing onto the shift fork. Yeah, so you want to go this direction. Snap it on. So I was looking at the original throwout bearing that came with my transmission. It's a Koyo, which is an OEM brand made in Japan. And I noticed a little bit difference right there. As you can see, the center spinning ring here is actually raised up away from the body right here versus the NSK. So this is the OEM one I ordered from the dealer or from Japan. And this thing is an NSK, also made in Japan. And you can see the side, that spinning part, the part that touches the spines, it's very thin and shallow there. The overall depth and height of both of them are the same as far as that goes, and then the stroke and everything looks to be the same because this inside part just glides inside the actual bell housing, and this is the part that touches the spines and spins with the flywheel and the clutch disc. So I'm hoping this will work with the ACT. This is the OEM one that comes with the IS300, the SC300, and a few other Japanese cars that use the same transmission. This one, I assume, came with the ACT clutch, or it was an aftermarket replacement from the last owner. So you want to make sure that ring goes on the inside here, and that hoop goes around that way. That's the correct way to do it according to the factory manual. Once you do that, go ahead and just snap it into here. Right there, so that's perfect. And then we'll go ahead and fix the grommet so it fits in there nicely. So on the back side here, you want to make sure that boot has the vent facing backwards and everything's in place. I'm gonna put the slave cylinder in once this thing's all put together onto the car, just because I don't want it pushing on this rod and then pushing the throwout bearing out while I'm trying to install it. All right, so I've got the shifter here. If you watch one of my older videos, when I was doing all this stuff on the transmission, I replaced this boot right here because it was all tore up. I replaced this vent because it was missing the cap. And I did a few other minor things, like take this thing apart, just kind of clean everything up before I put it all back together. But I didn't get that ball right there the first time. So this time I'm gonna go ahead and get it. As I mentioned earlier, this part right here is a W58 one. It's like less than $10, and the part number is right there on the label right here. But the one for the IS300 is listed as a different one. I couldn't even get a hold of that one because I forgot that I had ordered this other one before, and I tried to order this one and it was actually back ordered, so I ended up canceling that. If you look at it side by side, it looks exactly like the same part, same dimensions and everything. So I don't know why they listed as two part numbers with different prices. And the one for the IS300 is only the IS300, where this one is for the Supra, the SC300, and a few other vehicles. Pretty much all Toyota vehicles with this type of shifter uses the same bushing. So I'm gonna go ahead and just use some pliers. Just put this over here so I don't damage the ball or anything. There you go. But yep. Once you pop that thing off, it pretty much damages everything, so you need a new one anyways. So I went ahead and took it out and put it on the ground and see if I can just press it in on the ground here. Oh, there it is. Pops in right easily. It is in here now, and it moves around pretty freely. While I'm down here, one of the things I'm gonna do is that starter plug right there, when I was taking it apart, it actually broke. One of the clips broke off of it. That's a very common plug, and you can actually pick that up from the dealer, or you could pick it up on Amazon or eBay. I think it's like $8 to $10. So if you actually broke that plug yourself when you did this project, go ahead and check the links down in the description to order a new one. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that little center white thing out, see if I could dislodge and pull off that plug, get it ready for the new one when it comes in. The pick moves that pretty easily. The little white piece comes right out. You want to get a straight pick into there, lift the tab up, and it pulls right out. Once this thing comes in, I'll go ahead and just slide it right in, put the white piece back in there, and it should hold pretty good. First thing we want to do is get our pilot bearing into the crank here. If you look in here, there's chafers that kind of help this thing get in center. So what we want to do is get something to tap it in with. You don't want to tap directly on here because you're going to end up damaging that thing. What you want to use is a socket that's about 24 millimeters, maybe 25 millimeters. This 24 deep socket thick wall is perfect because it's a little bit bigger than the outer ring, and it won't touch the inner ring, which it might damage the bearings. Get it kind of squared up to here, and use a mallet or something easy and just start tapping it in until you can feel it go in. And once you see it's going in, you want to make sure you tap it so it goes in squarely. I'm gonna go ahead and get a real hammer just because that rubber mallet was rebounding too much and not getting enough impact in there. So it's in there pretty much flush. This thing gets it right onto the edge there. So got it tapped in there perfectly, as you can see here. As I mentioned on my earlier video when I was taking this down, my rear main seal only has maybe like 5,000 miles on it, and it's dry as a whistle right now, so I'm not even gonna touch it. This thing is nice and clean. I see no kind of oil or residue or anything, so that's an OEM knock seal right there. If you guys haven't seen my video on doing this, go ahead and check out that video on changing this thing out if you need to change it yourself. You can see on my last video when I changed it, I actually took out this whole thing and I actually redid all the FPIG right here so that gasket's brand new and sealed. So before I put the flywheel in, all these holes right here for the bolts, they actually go straight into the oil pan and they get exposed and they have oil in them. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna spray some Super Clean, just clean out the threads and the holes a little bit. So when I put the new bolts in, I don't get the oil too much into the bolt and then have it contaminated and not hold. One of the things that you'll notice is these bolts are recommended from the factory to be replaced every time with brand new ones, which we know nobody does. But I do have new ones for this project and they come with a coating on them already, a Loctite coating. And I wanna make sure that Loctite holds pretty well and doesn't leak through. So we'll go ahead and just clean these out a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get the flywheel in here. Just go ahead and just push it in, line the holes up. And then we'll go ahead and get the first bolt in here. So as you can see right here, this bolt, it's got a 14mm 12 point on the back. That's what we need. And then you'll see all the bolts brand new have this coating on them already. So it's perfect for what we need it for here. Go ahead and just hand thread it in. And what you want to do is tighten them across. So you want to do crisscross patterns and then torque it down to 61 foot-pounds. Speed things up, I'm gonna just use my impact driver on the lowest 1 setting and just kind of tighten it down before I torque it. So once we tighten it down, we'll go get the torque wrench and hit it with some real torque. If you have a helper, it'd help to have someone holding the front right now when you're actually doing the torque. I'm not really torquing right now, I'm just making sure I get it tightly. All right, so I've got it pretty much hand tightened right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and lock the front crank so I can turn this thing. All right, got them all torqued down. We're good now. So next thing we're gonna do is install the 6-puck clutch I have. So my transmission, when I bought this thing secondhand, it came with a used ACT 6-puck with an extreme pressure plate. This thing is a pretty aggressive setup, but hopefully I can drive it daily. The one thing it didn't come with was a clutch alignment tool, which is this thing right here. If you guys get a secondhand clutch, make sure you pick up one of these. These things are pretty cheap. They're like $5 or $10. It's impossible to install a clutch correctly without having this thing to align the clutch so it's straight on the flywheel. So I recommend picking up one of these if you don't have one laying around already from doing clutch projects. So we'll go ahead and get the 6-puck onto the flywheel and then get the pressure plate on and then screw down the bolts. The bolts are like 12mm headed bolts and they only need like 14 foot-pounds of torque. So to install the clutch, you basically just need to stick this thing into the spines here, center it with your pilot bearing and then just get it in there and it sits this way. So you want to make sure on your disc that you pay attention to where it says transmission side or engine side if you have it, and then you just get it right onto the flywheel. And once you do that, you get the pressure plate onto here. So your flywheel should have dowel pins all around. Your pressure plate will also have the same dowel pin alignment. You want to get those in there and then get that popped into those dowel pins before you get the bolts into there. So once you get it into there, make sure the clutch alignment tool is good so everything's perfect right now. So we'll go ahead and put those 12mm screws in here and then torque those things down. All right, we've got them tightened down, so I'm gonna go ahead and torque it now. Go ahead and torque it in the cross pattern like we tightened it. So they're all torqued. Once they're torqued down, you go ahead and just pull the clutch alignment tool out. And that thing should be perfect. Now we just go ahead and get the transmission into here and bolt it up. I saw my last video on doing this tunnel right here. That coating that I used from Duplicolor, I think, turned out pretty good. It's a professional coating and it pretty much matches the OEM Rhino liner looking stuff over here. You could even see some of the spots I touched up that was missing before, and it looks like the OEM, so that's pretty good stuff. But if you guys haven't seen this video, go ahead and check that one out right there of me doing that tunnel. All right, I got this baby onto here with the jack underneath so I can actually lift it in place and then bolt it up. As you can see, it was a big pain just to kind of get everything up here by myself, but I was able to lift this thing, get it kind of placed right onto that jack with some 2x4s down here to help. Before I get too far, I gotta remember to grease up all this stuff right here with some moly lithium grease, especially where the throwout bearing slides in and out, and then in the spines, and then here, just to make sure we have some grease. It's especially important around this area. I forgot all about greasing that up before I put it all back together, but I'll go ahead and put some on here now before I get started. All right, got that greased up right here on the spines and back here on all the moving parts, so we're pretty much good to go. I ended up popping that thing off and getting that ball greased up too, so we're good there. So now I'm under the car. I've got this thing pretty much lined up. What I'm gonna try to do is jack this thing up as high as I can, try to get this thing pushed in and get it into the actual pilot bearing and into the hole. Once you do that, then you can just push everything and bolt the back bracket here back up here, and then get all your bell housing bolts in. So this is gonna be the hard and tricky part, especially since I'm doing this by myself. If you have a buddy or a friend, this will be much easier, but I'm in my garage by myself doing this. I might have to lower the lift one lock so I can actually get into there and do the work and then not jack it that high, but I'm gonna try to jack it up first as high as I can. I lowered it one lock on the lift and I was able to get it closer. We got this thing right around the exhaust now, except right now you can see right there the input shaft is actually close to the clutch, so I gotta kind of wiggle my way in there, get this thing clear of that manifold over there, and keep the bell housing from hitting the frame right here, just gonna slide it over. This would be much easier without the exhaust on, but it's a pain in the ass to unbolt all that. So if you're doing this, I really recommend maybe just unbolting it from the top, and then that way it'll be much easier to do this down here. You see the exhaust over here is touching the bell housing. We want to be able to kind of lift it right over that and get it right into this spot right here. That was a complete failure trying to get it in there. So what I need to do is unbolt the header off the engine to give me a little bit more slack and play, so that manifold can slide over. Then I'll have more wiggle room to try to get this thing in there. That's my biggest issue right now, just trying to get this thing to clear the actual firewall and then get past the clutch and everything. And this thing kind of sticks out. So this thing has to go into the center of the clutch and into the pilot bearing, and that's the biggest pain right now, because slide it in, it hits the pressure plate, so we need to just be able to have enough room to kind of slide it right in when we line it up. So for this video, I'm gonna call it quits right here. On the next video, I'll go ahead and unbolt the header, get all the stuff I need to get in and around this thing so I can get this back in there. In addition, one of the things I forgot was a heat shield. So I ordered on Amazon this adhesive heat shield from DEI. This stuff is pretty expensive and everybody uses it for their tunnel. I'm gonna go ahead and install it on here just because I read some reviews about this thing putting off a lot of heat compared to the automatic transmission. So we'll go ahead and add that on the next video, as well as actually get this thing in there, and we'll figure out exactly how to get in there the easiest way. So if you guys found this video useful, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to your channel, go ahead and subscribe to your channel. Turn on bell notifications to get notified every time I upload a video. Remember guys, for all these different projects, if I can do it, you guys can do it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time.